They used his patriotism against him. They used his dead wife's memory against him. They used his honor against him. What they didn't know, some soldiers never stop fighting. The call came from the Department of Veterans Affairs. They said he'd won $2.5 million in a special lottery for wounded warriors. Colonel James Harrison had survived Iraq and Afghanistan, but this phone call almost destroyed him. Colonel Harrison was 67 years old and lived alone in a modest two-bedroom house in Tucson, Arizona. His wife Margaret had passed away 2 years earlier from cancer, and since then, the silence in the house had become his constant companion. Every morning he followed the same routine: wake at 6, coffee at 7, morning walk at 8. Discipline had kept him alive through 3 decades of military service, and now it was all he had left. It was a Thursday morning in September 2024 when his phone rang at 9:47 a.m. The caller ID displayed Department of Veterans Affairs, Washington, D.C. Harrison answered immediately. Any call from the VA could be important regarding his benefits. "Colonel Harrison." The voice was professional, respectful, with just the right amount of warmth. "This is Jennifer Morrison calling from the Department of Veterans Affairs, Special Services Division. First, let me thank you for your service to this nation." "Thank you, ma'am," Harrison replied automatically. 30 years of military courtesy ran deep. "Colonel, I have extraordinary news. You've been selected as one of 12 winners in our National Wounded Warriors Recognition Lottery. This is a special program funded by private donations to honor our most distinguished veterans." "Congratulations, sir. You've won $2.5 million. Harrison's heart skipped. For a moment, the emptiness in his chest, the void Margaret's death had left, seemed to fill with something he hadn't felt in years: hope. I don't remember entering any lottery, ma'am." "Oh, you didn't need to, Colonel. The selection was automatic based on your service record, your multiple tours in Iraq, your Bronze Star, your decades of dedication. This is the nation's way of saying thank you properly. The funds will be tax-free and can be used however you wish." Harrison felt tears prick his eyes. Margaret had always said he deserved recognition. She'd been so proud of his service, even when it meant years apart. Maybe this was real. Maybe someone finally... "Now, Colonel," Jennifer's voice turned businesslike, "there are some processing requirements we need to handle. For a prize of this magnitude, we need to collect federal processing fees, state lottery compliance charges, and legal documentation costs up front. The total comes to $75,000. Once that's cleared, your $2.5 million will be transferred within 48 hours. Something flickered in Harrison's mind. A small warning light from decades of intelligence training. Processing. Fees. Why would I need to pay to receive prize money? Jennifer's laugh was warm, understanding. "I know it seems counterintuitive, Colonel, but this is standard federal procedure for lottery winnings over $1 million. Think of it like estate taxes. They have to be paid before transfer. The IRS and State Lottery Commission require it. I have documentation I can email you right now." Critical warning 1. Legitimate lotteries never require upfront payment. If you must pay money to receive money, it's a scam. Real government agencies and legitimate lotteries deduct taxes and fees from winnings. They never ask winners to send money first. This is the biggest red flag in lottery scams. But Harrison was vulnerable. The loneliness, the financial stress of medical bills from Margaret's illness, the genuine-sounding professional on the phone. It all conspired against his usual skepticism. "How would I pay this?" he asked slowly. "We need wire transfer or cryptocurrency, Colonel. It has to be rapid transfer to meet the federal deadline. You have 72 hours to complete payment or the prize reverts to an alternate recipient. I'll send you the account information via secure email right now." Over the next 3 days, Jennifer Morrison called Harrison 6 times. She was patient, kind, understanding. She sent official-looking documents with government seals. She provided a case number and a supervisor he could call back, a number that went to the same scam operation. She even sent a photo ID badge that looked legitimate. On the 3rd day, Harrison went to his bank and initiated a wire transfer of $75,000, his entire life savings minus what he needed for immediate expenses. The bank teller had asked if he was sure, mentioned that it seemed unusual, but Harrison had snapped at her. "I know what I'm doing." 4 hours after sending the money, Harrison called the Department of Veterans Affairs direct line to confirm his prize. The operator had no record of any lottery. No Jennifer Morrison worked there. No such program existed. Harrison sat in his kitchen, staring at his phone, feeling the same hollow shock he'd felt standing in the hospital when the doctor said there was nothing more they could do for Margaret. The difference was Margaret's death was beyond anyone's control. This was his own stupidity. But something happened in that moment that changed everything. The hollow feeling hardened. The shame crystallized into something cold and sharp. Harrison had spent 28 years in military intelligence and covert operations. He'd tracked terrorist cells through 3 countries. He'd infiltrated hostile organizations. He'd planned and executed dozens of tactical operations. And now, someone had played him for a fool. Old soldiers don't just get mad, they get strategic. Harrison opened his desk drawer and pulled out an old military-grade laptop he'd kept from his service days. He made a phone call to a number he hadn't dialed in 5 years. Rick Martinez, his former partner in signals intelligence. Rick answered on the 2nd ring. "Well, I'll be damned. Colonel, thought you'd retired from the game. Rick, I need your help, and I need it quiet." That night, Rick drove to Tucson from his home in Phoenix. At 65, Rick was in a motorized wheelchair due to an IED incident during their last deployment together, but his technical skills hadn't diminished at all. If anything, he'd gotten better. Harrison explained everything. Rick listened without judgment, his fingers already dancing across his laptop keyboard. "They're running what we call an advance fee lottery scam," Rick said. "Usually operated out of call centers. The wire transfer you sent, let me trace it." His fingers moved faster. "Okay, it hit an intermediary account, then bounced to 3 different offshore locations. Then, wait, hold on." Rick's eyes narrowed. "Colonel, this isn't a typical overseas operation. The money's still in the U.S. It bounced around to look international, but it's sitting in a collection account at a commercial bank in Phoenix. These guys are running the operation domestic." "Can you find them?" Rick smiled. Not a happy smile, but the smile of a wolf spotting prey. "Give me 48 hours. Practical security tip. Supper 1. The red flags Harrison missed. Looking back, Harrison had missed several critical warning signs. Legitimate lotteries don't call you. You must claim prizes yourself. You cannot win a lottery you didn't enter. Government agencies never demand cryptocurrency or rapid wire transfers. Pressure tactics, 72-hour deadline, are manipulation techniques. Professional demeanor doesn't equal legitimacy. Scammers train extensively. Official-looking documents can be easily faked. Protection method: the 3-call rule. If someone calls with unexpected good news involving money, hang up. Look up the organization's official number yourself. Don't use any number they provide. Call that official number and ask about the claim. If they say it's not real, it isn't. If they confirm it, ask for a callback number from a supervisor. This simple 3-step verification would have saved Harrison $75,000. But what happened next would save millions for others. Rick worked for 2 straight days. He traced the wire transfer route, mapped the money trail, identified the bank accounts, and then, using techniques that weren't exactly legal, but Harrison chose not to ask about, he found the physical location. Stevens Financial Services, Suite 1840, Cameron Tower, downtown Phoenix, Rick said, showing Harrison a satellite photo. They're running 3 different scam operations out of one office: lottery scams targeting veterans, tech support scams targeting seniors, and romance scams targeting widows. Harrison's jaw tightened. They were targeting the vulnerable, the lonely, people like him. How many victims? Rick pulled up a spreadsheet. Based on their account activity, at least 200 over the past 8 months. Total take, approximately $3.2 million. Can you get the police involved? We could, but here's the problem. These guys are sophisticated. The moment police start investigating, they'll wipe everything and disappear. We'd need a warrant, and by then, all evidence would be gone. Most of the money's already been laundered through crypto and offshore accounts. Your $75,000 is one of the few clean transfers still sitting in their collection pool. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What if we don't involve the police yet? What if we go after them the way we used to go after targets overseas?" Rick raised an eyebrow. "You mean covert infiltration?" "I mean we run a counter-operation. We make them think they've found an even bigger fish. We get inside their operation. We gather evidence. And we make sure that when the police do get involved, these people go away for a very long time." Rick's smile widened. "Colonel, I was hoping you'd say that." They spent the next week planning. Harrison would become Robert Vaughn, a wealthy, recently widowed veteran who just received a $4.5 million life insurance payout and had no idea what to do with the money. They created a complete digital identity for this persona. Social media accounts showing loneliness and confusion, financial records indicating large deposits, even fake medical records suggesting early-stage dementia that would make him seem like an perfect target. Manipulation technique, awareness, the whale strategy. Scammers classify victims by potential value. Small fish might yield $5,000, $10,000. Whales are targets with $100,000 plus. Harrison and Rick were creating a whale profile, irresistible to greedy criminals. Understanding this helps you recognize when you're being sized up as a potential major victim. Rick then did something brilliant. He hacked into the lead list databases where scammers buy potential victim information and inserted Harrison's fake identity with tags like high value, recent windfall, confused, isolated. 3 days later, Harrison's burner phone rang. The caller ID showed Financial Advisory Services. Harrison answered, voice trembling with age. He didn't quite feel. "Hello? Mr. Vaughn, my name is Michael Stevens from Premier Financial Advisory. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time, sir?" It was the same voice, the same smooth professional tone. Harrison would never forget it. "Oh no, who is this again?" "Michael Stevens, sir. We help veterans and seniors manage large assets. I understand you've recently received a significant insurance payout. I'm calling because I believe you may have won our quarterly financial planning giveaway, a prize of $500,000 to help you invest your money wisely. Harrison almost laughed. They were doing it again. To the same person. They were so confident, so arrogant, they weren't even checking if they'd scammed someone before. Oh my, I did receive money recently, but I don't know what to do with it. Everything is so confusing since my wife. I completely understand, Mr. Vaughn. That's exactly why we're here. Why don't you come to our office? We can help you understand your options. No pressure, just a friendly consultation. They wanted him to come in person. Perfect. Well, I suppose that would be okay. Where are you located? Harrison arranged to visit their office 3 days later. That gave Rick time to prepare the equipment they'd need. Rick assembled what he called the surveillance kit, a modified smartphone that would act as a Wi-Fi infiltration device, a pen camera, and a walking cane with a hidden RF transmitter. The cane also had a small EMP device built into the handle, just in case they needed to disable electronics quickly. One more thing, Rick said, handing Harrison a small earpiece, nearly invisible. I'll be in a van 2 blocks away. I'll guide you through their computer system once you're inside. On the day of the meeting, Harrison dressed carefully. Slightly rumpled khakis, an old cardigan, comfortable shoes. He looked exactly like a confused elderly man with money and no idea what to do with it. Cameron Tower was a modern glass building in downtown Phoenix's financial district. Suite 1840 was on the 18th floor. The elevator ride up felt like descending into enemy territory, which Harrison supposed it was. The office looked legitimate. Professional reception area, modern furniture, framed certificates on walls. All fake, Harrison assumed. A young woman at the desk smiled warmly. You must be Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Stevens is expecting you. Michael Stevens looked exactly like his voice sounded. Late 30s, expensive suit, confident smile. His handshake was firm, his eye contact steady. Everything about him screamed trustworthy professional. Mr. Vaughn, thank you so much for coming in. Please, have a seat. The office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Phoenix. Stevens' desk held 2 large monitors, a laptop, and several stacks of official-looking documents. I understand your wife recently passed, Stevens said, his voice dropping to sympathetic. My condolences. Losing a spouse is one of life's greatest challenges. Harrison felt genuine anger bloom in his chest. This man was using Margaret's death, using the same emotional manipulation he'd used weeks before, and he didn't even recognize Harrison's voice. Thank you, Harrison managed, making his voice crack slightly. It's been very hard. Of course, of course. Now, about this insurance payout, $4.5 million, is that correct? Yes, I don't really understand investments. My wife handled everything. Stephen's eyes gleamed. That's exactly why we're here, sir. But first, about that prize I mentioned, the $500,000 financial planning award. There is a small processing fee, just $25,000, to handle the federal paperwork, and Rick's voice crackled in Harrison's earpiece. He's running the same play. Don't react yet. But given your situation, Mr. Vaughn, I think we can discuss something even better. Have you heard of high-yield offshore investment accounts? For the next 20 minutes, Stevens pitched an elaborate investment scheme that was clearly designed to separate Harrison from his fictional $4.5 million. The scam had layers. First, a processing fee for the fake prize, then investment opportunities that required large upfront deposits, then tax shelters that were actually just additional ways to steal money. Harrison played along, asking confused questions, seeming overwhelmed. All the while, his modified smartphone sat on his lap, connected to Stephen's office Wi-Fi, feeding data back to Rick. "This seems very complicated," Harrison said, finally. "I'm not sure." "I understand completely, Mr. Vaughn. Tell you what, why don't you think about it overnight? I'll prepare some documents for you." Stephen stood, extending his hand. "But about that prize, the processing fee deadline is tomorrow. If you could wire that $25,000, we could lock in your $500,000 award, and that would give you seed money for these larger investments." They wanted him to send money tonight. Of course they did. I'll need to think about it," Harrison said, playing his role. He left the office, rode the elevator down, walked 3 blocks to where Rick waited in a modified van painted with desert air conditioning repair on the side. "Got everything," Rick said triumphantly. "Full access to their network. Colonel, these guys are even worse than we thought. The computer system contains detailed records, victim names, amount stolen, wire transfer routes, cryptocurrency wallets, even notes about victims' emotional vulnerabilities they plan to exploit. Can you copy everything?" "Already did. We have enough evidence to put these people away for decades." But Harrison wasn't satisfied. "What about the money? Can we access their accounts?" Rick hesitated. "Technically, yes. I found their collection pool. It's got about $875,000 right now, including your 75 grand. But Colonel, if we touch that, we're committing a crime ourselves." "What if we don't keep it? What if we take it and return it to victims?" "That's still theft, even with good intentions." Harrison thought carefully. "What if we don't take it personally? What if we route it somewhere they'd never expect? Somewhere public, somewhere that would make a news story?" Rick's eyes widened as he understood. "You want to Robin Hood this. I want those victims to get their money back. I want these criminals to lose everything, and I want them to know they picked the wrong target." They spent that night and the next day planning the final phase of their operation. The plan was elegant in its simplicity, but required perfect timing. First, Rick would infiltrate their accounting system more deeply using the access Harrison had gained. Second, they'd identify as many victims as possible from the records. Third, they'd trigger an automated transfer that would redistribute the stolen money to a legitimate charity that helps veterans, with specific instructions that the charity verify and contact all victims listed in the stolen records. Fourth, they'd simultaneously send all evidence to the FBI's Cybercrime Division, the Arizona Attorney General, and the Phoenix Police Department. Fifth, and Harrison insisted on this, he wanted to be there when they realized what was happening. "That's risky," Rick warned. "Why do you need to see it?" "Because I want them to know. I want them to see my face and understand they didn't scam a confused old man. They tangled with someone who fought back." On the third day, Harrison received a call from Stevens. "Mr. Vaughn, have you made a decision about that processing fee?" "Yes, I have. I'd like to come back in today and discuss it further. I have some questions about the investment portfolio." "Wonderful. Come by around 2 p.m.? At 1:55 p.m., Harrison entered Cameron Tower again. This time, he didn't look confused or vulnerable. He walked with military precision. Rick was in the van, fingers poised over his keyboard. Harrison entered Suite 1840. Stevens greeted him warmly, ushering him into the office. "Mr. Vaughn, glad you came back. So you've decided to move forward with nothing," Harrison said, his voice suddenly cold, clear, all pretense dropped. "My name isn't Robert Vaughn. It's Colonel James Harrison, United States Army, retired. And 3 weeks ago, someone in this office stole $75,000 from me using a fake veterans lottery scam." Stevens' face went pale. "I don't know what you're—" "The woman who called herself Jennifer Morrison. The Department of Veterans Affairs scam. The $2.5 million prize. You recognized my voice when I called as Vaughn, didn't you? You just didn't care because you thought you could scam me twice?" Rick's voice came through the earpiece. "I'm in their system now, starting transfers." Stevens lunged for his computer, but Harrison was faster, placing his modified cane against the desk. "I wouldn't do that if I were you. My associate is currently accessing your entire network. We have records of every victim, every transaction, every piece of your operation." "You can't! That's illegal! You hacked us! And you stole from over 200 people. I think the FBI will be more interested in your crimes than mine." At that moment, Stevens' computer screen lit up with alerts. Transactions were processing. Money was moving out of their accounts in rapid succession. "What are you doing? Stop!" Other employees rushed into the office, drawn by Stevens' shouts. Harrison stood calmly, watching the computer screen. "What I'm doing," Harrison said quietly, "is making sure every dollar you stole goes back to help the people you victimized. Right now, $875,000 is being transferred to the Veterans Crisis Relief Fund, a legitimate charity that actually helps veterans, not a fake one that robs them. That charity has instructions to contact every victim listed in your database and work to restore their funds." "You can't do this! That's our—" "Your what?" Harrison's voice was ice. "Your stolen money?" Rick's voice came through the earpiece again. "Transfers complete. Evidence package sent to FBI, AG, and local police. Colonel, you've got about 4 minutes before authorities arrive." Stevens's face had gone from pale to red. He reached into his desk drawer. Harrison saw the movement and reacted instantly. Decades of combat training didn't fade. His hand shot out, grabbing Stevens' wrist before a weapon could clear the drawer. "I strongly advise against that," Harrison said, calmly. The sound of sirens began to rise from the street below. "That would be the Phoenix Police Department," Harrison said, releasing Stevens' wrist, "along with the FBI. They've received comprehensive evidence of your fraud operation. Victim lists, financial records, recorded phone calls, everything. I estimate you're looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison for wire fraud, elder abuse, and conspiracy." Stevens collapsed into his chair, the fight draining out of him. Harrison walked to the window, looking down at the police vehicles pulling up below. Rick's voice came through the earpiece one last time. "Clean exit, Colonel. I'm moving the van. Meet you at the extraction point." Harrison turned back to Stevens. "You used my patriotism against me. You used my dead wife's memory against me. You used my honor against me. What you didn't understand is that those things, patriotism, memory, honor, those are exactly what give men like me the strength to fight back. You thought I was prey. You were wrong." He walked to the office door, past the stunned employees, into the hallway. As elevator doors closed, he heard the stairwell door slam open and police voices shouting, "Freeze! Nobody move!" Harrison rode the elevator down, walked out through the lobby, past arriving police officers, and 3 blocks later climbed into Rick's van. "That," Rick said with a grin, "was the most beautiful operation I've seen since we left the service." 2 weeks later, Harrison sat in his kitchen reading the newspaper. The headline read, "Major Fraud Ring Busted. FBI Arrests 8 in Scam Targeting Veterans and Seniors." The article detailed how an anonymous tip and extraordinary digital evidence had led to the arrests. It mentioned that nearly $900,000 had been recovered and was being redistributed to victims through a legitimate charity organization. Harrison's phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Colonel Harrison, this is Special Agent Linda Chen from the FBI. We've been investigating the Stevens operation. We wanted to thank you for your assistance, though we'd like to discuss your methodology." "Am I in trouble, Agent Chen?" There was a pause. "Let's say the means were questionable, but the results were exceptional. We're more interested in your cooperation with our ongoing investigation than in pursuing charges. That said, we'd prefer if you left cybercrime investigations to law enforcement in the future." "Understood. One more thing, Colonel. That charity fund, because of the publicity from this case, they've received an additional $200,000 in donations from people who heard the story. Your actions helped more people than just the direct victims." After hanging up, Harrison made himself coffee and sat at his kitchen table, the same place where, weeks earlier, he'd felt the crushing shame of being scammed. Now he felt something different, not quite redemption, but purpose. His phone buzzed with a text from Rick. "Colonel, got a call from a lady in Mesa. She lost $50K to an IRS scam last month. Wants to know if we can help. What do you say? One more mission?" Harrison smiled. "Old soldiers don't retire. They just find new battles to fight." Final lessons: what everyone should know. 1. The red flags of lottery scams. You cannot win a lottery you didn't enter. Legitimate lotteries never require upfront payment. Government agencies don't demand cryptocurrency or wire transfers. Pressure tactics and artificial deadlines are manipulation tools. Professional appearance doesn't equal legitimacy. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. 2. Protection methods. The 3-call rule. Hang up. Find the real number. Call back independently. The 24-hour rule. Never make financial decisions under pressure. Wait a full day and discuss with family. The password system. Have a secret code word with family that must be used in any money request. The screenshot method. Save everything. Caller IDs, emails, texts. Evidence helps authorities. 3. What to do if scammed. Report immediately to local police and FBI, IC3 Gov. Contact your bank. Some transfers can be stopped if caught quickly. File report with Federal Trade Commission. Report fraud.ftc.gov. Don't feel ashamed. These are professional criminals who fool thousands. Warn others. Your story could prevent someone else's loss. 4. The truth about scammers. They are professionals who train extensively in psychological manipulation. They specifically target veterans because of trust and authority. They exploit loneliness, grief, and isolation. They study their victims and customize their approaches. They rely on victims being too ashamed to report. 5. The most important lesson. You are not stupid for being scammed. You are human. Scammers exploit the best qualities in people: trust, hope, patriotism, love. The shame belongs to the criminals, not the victims. Colonel Harrison learned this the hard way. But in fighting back, he not only reclaimed his own dignity, but helped protect hundreds of others. As he sat in his quiet kitchen that evening, Harrison looked at the photograph of Margaret on the shelf. She was smiling in her favorite yellow dress, taken during their vacation to San Diego the year before she got sick. "I did it, Maggie," he said quietly. "One last mission." Outside his window, the Arizona sunset painted the sky in shades of amber and gold. The silence in the house didn't feel quite so empty anymore. Harrison had found something Margaret would have been proud of. He'd turned his pain into purpose, his vulnerability into strength, and his victimhood into victory. And somewhere in Phoenix, in a federal holding cell, Michael Stevens and his associates were learning that some veterans never stop serving, some soldiers never stop fighting, and some victims refuse to stay victims. The end.